Welcome to Fostering Blooms, the podcast where we dig deep into gardening and all the ways it can enrich your home and life.
Together, we'll explore every aspect of gardening the organic way, keeping it simple, accessible, and fun.
Whether you're a seasoned gardener or just getting your hands in the dirt, we're here to share the tips and insights you need to grow something truly special. I'm Shanna Foster-Boleen.
And I'm Caitlin Blum, and we're two friends on a mission to cultivate beauty, creativity, and connection through everything we grow.
This is Fostering Blooms. Okay, I know that we've done a May to-dos, but this episode is specifically for plants that need to get divided, propagated, and planted.
We can dig into this because it was hard not to in the May to-dos.
Yeah, we went a little long.
We did. May is a banging month for the garden. So there's a lot to do. And now we get to really dig in specifically on these activities.
Yeah. So I think that basically, for me anyways, for the majority of my gardening life, I've always just thought about planting, you know, and May is such a big time to plant because in 7B you can plant pretty much anything, except I discourage you to do certain evergreens like thujas and probably not as many big trees. Kind of really lost the time to do that. So a lot of the perennials, obviously annuals that are seasonally appropriate. And we will talk about what you can plant right now, but we're also going to talk about dividing or propagating.
Yeah, how can we get more plants for free?
Oh my God, free plants are my favorite thing. I'm obsessed with free plants.
It's an obsession. That's a great way to put it. You get a little bit of a high.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God, I get more of these for free.
I know.
Hey, do you want this division of this? What, a free plant?
Yes. I have so much space to cover too.
Yeah.
There's no way I could afford to garden the way that I am if I didn't propagate and divide and do things from seed. You know, I've got a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, if we bought everything we did from seed,
we would be in
our wives would be in a lot of trouble.
A lot of trouble. Okay, well, let's start with planting. Here's a few things that, plant late April throughout May. Personally, I'm trying to wrap most of this up by early June because it's just getting too warm here. I'm just going to do a list. Dahlias, however you want to say that. Zinnias, celosia, cosmos, potted roses, sunflowers, basil, marigolds, gomphrenia, which they look like little balls.
Yeah.
It's not a disease. It sounds kind of like something else. Mexican sunflower, regular sunflowers, of course, tomatoes, peppers, squash, zucchini. I mean, really the list is kind of long. It's easier to say, just don't plant these evergreens and some trees.
They might get a little crispy.
Yeah. I mean, and here's the truth is there may be better times, like you could have planted something a little earlier, but for the most part, anything that's a summer lover that's going to bloom in the summer or the fall, or that you're going to eat in the summer or the fall, now's the time. Yeah. Like you wouldn't plant snap peas because they're already in the ground and hopefully to be harvested soon.
I am wondering, because we've talked about this, packing our garden beds in more, our veggie beds especially, more than their traditional spacing. People are throwing spacing out the window when it comes to the garden world now. Yeah. People really are like, the spacing suggestions on the packet, people are just like, no, I'm not doing that. And so I am wondering if under some of my plants that I know are going to be bigger, so my zucchini and squash, if I can do maybe some spinach or some slower bolting lettuces, things like that, to see if I can get some baby greens underneath. They get some shade. We'll see. I'm going to try to just pack it in a little bit more and do some more succession planting.
Well, I tried last year with the tomato arch. When I first planted the tomatoes, I also planted lettuce down the center.
That's right.
And a couple things happened. One is that I think a little bunny friend ate some of it. Yeah. Two, I didn't have drip irrigation set up yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So it just was kind of like a combination of things that didn't like get it off to a good start. But the main thing that discouraged me from doing it again this year for the summer crop is that as I was harvesting underneath, I kept stepping on that center bed. Now it was empty at that point, but I kept stepping on that. What I did is I have planted cauliflower in there while the snap peas grow.
That's
Because
great.
the snap peas are only going to come probably halfway up the arches. I can harvest them from the outside. I won't be stepping on it by the time it's time to plant the summer plants there, so forth and so on. I do think that you could plant some lettuces under something that's trellised a little bit, or something that's going to get big and you're going to shade. I think it's going to be fun to try.
Yeah. I mean, well, it just doesn't grow.
Yeah.
But I'll have tried. And
Yeah.
I like trying wacky stuff and seeing if it will work.
I mean, as long as I'm not spending a ton of money on an experiment like that, then
Sure.
I'm really good with that. And so many of those things you can start from seed, either inside and transplant them out, or you can start them direct. So why not try it? You know,
Yeah.
and another thing I didn't try is if you have a cow panel arch with, say, cucumbers on it, right? And the cucumbers are growing on the outside of that, instead of having it in a strip in the middle underneath the center part of the arch, maybe up against that interior panel where it's still getting shade and keeping the roots of the cucumbers cool. So I might try that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and see
I
what
like
happens
it.
with some things. All right, so those are some things you can plant right now. I mean, really, honestly, the list just goes
Yeah.
on.
Just
So, yeah.
plant to your heart's
Yeah.
content.
So summer bloomers, fall bloomers, anything you can eat, summer, fall.
Yeah.
You know, this is the time to get going. Let's talk about the stuff that maybe we didn't do as much in the past, which is division and propagation. Now, I've divided some things. I know you've divided some things in the past, but now I'm really like focused on it.
Yeah, let's maximize what can be divided. I think back to fall, and I did a lot of kind of moving things around, taking things out that I didn't necessarily love. I took a bunch of daylilies out in November, and I set them next to the stairs. I kind of forgot about them being there. Well, they just started to like bloom and everything in March, April. So I gave them to my mother-in-law, but they're very hardy. I'll put it that way. They're wild.
I have a love-hate relationship with daylilies.
I know, me too. I don't, yeah.
That's
we'll just
another
leave-
time. But anyways, if you have daylilies, this is a good time to divide them.
It is, yeah.
And that is one thing that's great about that plant, is that it is so easy. I mean, you stick a shovel in there, cut it in half, move it, plant it in the ground, it'll bloom this summer.
Absolutely.
You know, I have dug them up and moved them and divided them during the summer. Well, if you do that,
That was an as-needed basis.
that
I'm
was
sure.
not a recommendation. I'm just telling you that's how tough they are. If you are doing it at all, whether it's in the summer or right now in May, you should dig it out and cut the leaves back substantially. That way it can focus on root growth. And that goes for
Absolutely.
most things. You know, if there's any top growth on it, it's really good to like kind of shear it back and let it focus on root growth.
Especially in the summer too, because
That's
it's
not going to bloom.
thrive the way you want it to. Just cut it back. It'll be there for next year. You're doing
Yep.
a little investment for next year. Something we don't have on here on our list is hostas. I feel like that should be kind of done in April, but I have been at a friend's house and they gave me some hostas and it was May. We divided them and they did okay going in. They were in shady spots though, so they weren't getting a lot of direct sunlight.
Typically, you're dividing those right as their little leaves are poking through. But I agree with you. I have absolutely divided hostas early in their growth cycle, and they've been okay.
So here are plants that you can divide right now, should you have them in your garden. So hardy geranium, lamb's ear, penstemon, catmint, salvia, daylilies, shasta daisies, phlox, sedum.
I'll tell you something about sedum.
What you got to say about sedum?
You can divide that.
Whatever you want.
It's bulletproof. It's like daylilies. It's bulletproof, man. That plant, first of all, let me tell you why I love dividing sedum. It's shallow rooted, so you don't have to dig super deep. And I'm lazy, so that's nice. I don't have to dig super deep. You can literally then put it in another not super deep hole. And it's definitely one of those plants where the leaves need to be a little bit right at or above ground level. You don't plant it super deep because it's shallow. You dig another shallow hole, you put it on top, throw some clay around it, if that's what you've got. Just water it in and walk away. Ta-da, it's done. There's no need for compost. There's no need for cow manure. There's no need for anything. It really doesn't need a well-improved soil. I have practically thrown them in the ground and walked away, and they just are like, okay. In the summer, in August, whenever. I have this huge area with sedum that's been growing there for 20 years. I still have more to move and divide.
You have a
but
lot
it
of
is
sedum.
really great. I'm going to put it down in my native pollinator garden that I'm making for Zena.
Yeah, that'll be really cool.
Yeah.
It is very, very hardy.
And you can divide a clump of it really easily. Like even if you bought one from the store, you could take a gallon plant and make 4 plants out of it easily.
Absolutely.
Even if you take a little tiny section as the size of your palm, it'll grow into a nice sized plant within a couple years.
Also, if you don't have these plants in your garden already, and you are getting them from a nursery, etc., if there are multiple plants in a pot, I always divide. Unless I want a really big clump, but I will take a pot of 3 or 4 plants that's in one big gallon plant and I'll divide them.
How do you know that it's 3 plants in a pot?
That's a really great question. I just bought some guara and I can tell it's one singular shoot coming out. It's just one in there. However, if you get something like lamb's ears, that's a good example. There's multiple shoots coming out of there. You can tell that there's individual plants, although they're very tight in the pot. So if you gently tease them apart, you can see that they have their roots tangled together, but you can easily tell that they're individual plants and separate those stems and plant them individually. And that'll kind of make your purchase go a little bit farther too.
And some plants are just so tough. Like if you had a gallon of sedum, it might be that it was just originally one plant they started in there, but it's so tough you can just divide it out. And lamb's ear is another one I've just been brutal to. Like had literally 2 little leaves coming out and its long root, threw it in the ground, put some dirt over it, watered it in, and was like, yeah, I'll be back later. And then there it goes.
JK.
Yeah, I mean, I've divided mine this time of year. I've also divided it in the fall. Some of these plants on this list, if you can't do it in early to mid-spring, you would do it in the fall.
Just wait,
But you just need to give your plant at least 8 weeks before your first frost to let it get some roots down.
Yeah.
So there are some things where it's better to do it earlier in the year, but you can do it later in the year too.
I think I divided my peonies in February.
Really?
Yeah, and they came back.
That's typically a fall one, but that's the thing.
I know. There's a range, and I'm like, oh, I should have done this sooner, but I'm doing it now. And they're coming up great.
Yeah.
And then my Baptisia, I dug her out, and I can't remember that. It was like December.
Yeah. It was like crazy timing.
It was December, and I kept her in a box of soil for like a week because I was waiting for the ground to thaw. Actually, it was probably in the box for like 3 weeks. And then I took it out and I planted it, and it's blooming. It's coming up. I am really rough on shit.
Yeah, you are.
I am pushing the limits of,
Well, there's like best practices and then there's Caitlin practices.
Absolutely.
But both work. And sometimes
me,
Caitlin practices figure something new out too. I love it.
Oh,
I think it's, I mean.
Hodgepodge.
Yeah. Here's the thing is that if you're like, this is my precious peony, little Lord of the Rings, my precious, then don't divide. Yeah, go best practice.
Yeah.
But if you're kind of like, I'm kind of relocate this or divide it right now. Yeah, see what happens. All right. So propagation. This is something I said in our January goals for the year. I'm really focused on this year. And
we're going to do it. We are going to propagate some shit.
Yeah. And roses are a big one that I really want to figure out because I'm telling you, I got a water propagator for Christmas. I am bound and determined to figure out when is the best time to take rose cuttings to propagate. What is the best way to get it to happen? But it's not just that. Here's some other things. Catmint. Already have some of those started. Salvias. Lamb's ear. I've never tried a cutting of lamb's ear, but my guess is, and I am going to try this, to just put it in water.
Try it.
Straight up water. Much like a sedum. I think sedum would root in water too.
Oh.
Now, if you haven't grown penstemon, you don't have any penstemon.
I did get the one.
Okay. I love it. First of all, hummingbirds love it, but it is just so hardy and beautiful. It gets these long little tiny bellflower spikes on it. The only thing I will say is that the bloom period is kind of short. It's only usually a couple weeks. I bought a new penstemon and I'm hoping that it's going to bloom at a different time for my Husker's Red. And then I can kind of get different varieties maybe blooming at a couple weeks apart and keep the party going. But I do still love it. and I would like to have more. I'm actually doing a couple things right now. I've got an indoor houseplant called Scadapsis that has rooted for me in water. And I've got sage officinalis, like our regular sage that's rooted in water for me. Planted that on. I've got mint I'm trying in water. I want to see how many things I can get to do in water. Now this is just like a little yogurt jar of water.
Little baby one.
I am going to try some things in the water propagator too. Part of the reason I'm obsessed with the water propagation is because I think it might be, in some cases, faster. But even if it's not faster, the water propagator just recycles the water that's in there and sprays it on the base of the plant. And you just need to add a little water every couple days. Obviously, the water in the glass jar, you just replace that water every couple days. But the point is, it's a lot less volume and cost than soil.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So potting soil has become really expensive. Like one of my favorite ones is like $40 for 2 cubic liters or whatever.
That's crazy. That's a lot.
It's a lot, you know, and even if you make it at home, then you've got to have like 4 different ingredients, and that's fine. But if you don't have the space for that. So I feel like water propagation is cool because whether you're doing it in a little glass jar or you're doing it in a water propagator, you can make that fit for your house, your size, less soil, less cost. Yeah. And it's just fascinating to me. And you know what else I did?
What?
This is not propagation. I have received some bare root plants. And Caitlin got me some lilac. And I was supposed to plant it in January. And I got 2 espaliered apple trees. The lilac has been in water. It's May. It's been in water for 5 months. It is leafed out and it is fine. The apple trees have been in their water for 3 weeks and they've leafed out. So it just kind of goes back to how important water is. Yeah. Now, I haven't done that with roses. I haven't just stuck roses in a bucket of water to see what happens. But I feel like there's certain things where it's like you're plumping it back up in a bucket of water before you plant it. So the roots, you know.
Yeah, I have 2 apple trees and 3 little baby birch tree saplings that are still in water as well that need to go in the ground.
How are they doing?
They are leafing out as well.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So water propagation, I'm pretty obsessed. And I'm not talking hydroponics, although that's in the same vein. Mm-hmm. But I think that just for the home gardener, it's kind of fun to say, well, you know, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, why not? And snapdragons, I'm going to pinch those tops out. I'm a little behind, but I did pinch one out and put it in some soil, but I'm going to do some in soil and then I'm going to do a couple in water.
Yeah.
So pretty much anything I propagate in soil, I'm going to try to propagate it in water. I need to eat more yogurt.
Yeah, you need some more jars. I am propagating some lavender right now.
Oh, yeah.
I need to check them because what I did actually is I saturated them, and this was probably a month ago now, maybe 5 weeks. I have not watered them since, but I'm keeping the bag domes over them to keep the moisture in. But it's also, again, it's lavender. So like they don't need to be soggy at all.
Yeah.
And when I checked them about a week and a half ago, I could see tiny, tiny little root hairs coming off of the stems, and there was new foliage starting to grow. So I think it's working.
That is so exciting.
I know. I need to check them. I'm almost kind of like scared.
Yeah.
Like,
maybe just one.
Like just like pull one up and be like.
Because I actually did get 2 roses to root. One had started and had a good root, and one had a baby root. And I transplanted them into a bigger pot because I thought, oh, I got a root. And it was too soon.
Yep.
Like it needed to have like a lot of roots.
They need to have a system.
And I did it too soon. So this is my warning to you. The other thing for propagation is that all of these things that you can do right now, some things that you want to propagate like hydrangeas, it's better to do late summer after they've bloomed. My suggestion is if you're unsure, go online and check and it'll tell you. Usually it's kind of the woody things that you're propagating at a little different time of year. But anyways, I am excited. More to come on propagation as we learn more. And I do use rooting hormone when I do this, but you don't always really have to.
You don't have to. I did some hydrangeas in March when I trimmed them.
Yeah.
They were getting leafy and green and doing well. And then they just kind of were like, meh, and it didn't work.
Interesting.
I know. So I'm going to try again, maybe on some new growth after they bloom.
Well, remember with the roses, they got leafy and green.
Yes.
And
it
then
was just,
they went meh. And it
Yeah.
was because what happens is there's stored energy
just ran
in
out.
the stem. And so it's just getting the moisture, but then it's not really creating a root system.
Yeah.
So again, I think it's good to experiment a little bit. And for me, like I've said a million times before, if there's not a big expense to it or a big loss cost, then what's the risk, really?
Yeah, just try
Just
it.
try
I mean, I had to
it, you
trim
know?
them anyway, so I was
Yeah.
like, let me save these and try. Now
Yeah.
I know.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think it's time to go get dirty.
Let's go propagate some stuff, baby.
Love what you hear? Follow along and leave us a review to keep us inspired. If you've enjoyed listening, you can also watch us on our YouTube channel at Fostering Blooms. Let's go grow, baby.